Hi everyone, we're going to look at some gear changing today. Quite simply, what to do with your feet and when. It's probably quite simple to a lot of people, but when people are learning to drive, they do struggle with it. And some of the things that I hear that other instructors teach pupils make me cringe a little touch. So I'm going to try and address a few of those little areas. Okay, first we're going to have a look at when to gear change. This is a diesel car and you change gear probably just a little bit over 2,000 revs. In a petrol engine car, you tend to change a little bit higher revs than that, maybe up to probably 2.5. You can stretch that gear change out longer if you wish to use more power of the engine, and that's totally fine in the correct circumstance. But remember, diesel engines change approximately 2,000 revs, petrol engines a little bit higher, but we do that by listening. It's one of my 4 skills that I'm forever going on about. You know when to change gear, literally through the sound of your engine. If you're looking at the rev counter all the time, you're taking your eyes off the road, so that's no good. So you shouldn't be just staring at this rev counter all the time. I'm not going to concentrate on today the actual movement of your hand selecting gear on the gear stick. I've done a video with that already, we don't want to go through that again. What I am going to concentrate on, however, is the coordination of your feet. What to do at what point. Firstly, I'm quickly going to go through the terms that I use to help my students do gear changes. I'm going to talk about the clutch pedal. I'm going to be using terms like clutch down, and what clutch down means is press it quickly all the way to the floor straight away. Don't push it down slowly. This is often a mistake that people make. If you push it down quick, it helps you do a good, fluent, sharp, quick gear change. So I might be using clutch down. I might be using the term find the bite, where I'm sure most of you have heard that term before, and that's literally bring the clutch usually around about halfway. It does change on different cars, but bring it till you feel the engine do what I call comeback. You can feel it start working again. Clutch slowly up is another term that I might use. Regarding your right foot on the gas pedal, call it the gas. People sometimes criticise for the Americanization of that word in the UK. Get a grip. All I would really turn around and say is that word gas is a little bit quicker and easier and sharper to say. So when you're teaching a pupil to drive, you use the word gas, and it's like I said, it's a little bit easier for them. So the terms that I'm going to be using for that will be off the gas. That means, again, really quick. Set the gas is the other one, which is a gentle squeeze of the gas pressure until you hear the engine sound just start a little bit again. It's usually probably about the thickness of a £1 coin. So I'm going to be using those terms, and we're going to have a little look on doing these gear changes. Alright, let's have a little go. I'm going to move off first, and then I'm going to go straight into the gear change from first to second. Now, this is the most difficult gear change to do because there's the most power coming from the engine and through the gearbox from first to second gear. Not quite as much as starting off, but it's the most difficult gear change to get right. And quite simply, what we're going to do, I'm just going to go through a quick dry run with my feet. You'll be squeezing the gas as you're driving down the road. You'll listen to that engine, and quite simply, you'll cover the clutch, put your foot over it. Your hand will go to the gear lever, and then you do the first part quickly. You press your clutch down and come off the gas, and that's sort of at the same time. So clutch down, off gas, you change gear with your hand, and then there's a little squeeze of gas as you slowly lift the clutch first to the bite and then fully all the way up. So we'll have a go at that on the road. So listen to my engine, it's just over 2,000 revs, cover my clutch, hand on the gear lever, clutch down, off gas, into second, set the gas, clutch slowly to the bite, and then lift all the way up. The first part, like I said, was done quickly, and that's really important. What we're actually trying to do with the gear change is make use of a little bit of a coast. We're trying to keep that momentum of the car. If you come off the gas first before you then press the clutch, the car's already slowed down. Okay, so keep momentum going, clutch down off gas, choose your gear, and then a little set of the gas, clutch up to the bite, and then lift the rest of the way up. Now, going on a little bit further, the other gears that we change to, second to third, third to fourth, and so on, get progressively easier the higher we go. So, for example, third to fourth is much easier than first to second because there's less power. So, a nice little way to think about it is that the slower the car goes, the slower you lift the clutch. Think about even starting off. Again, I've covered this in another video about you hold the clutch at the bite maybe for a car length or so as you're moving off before you release. When you're up going into a gear change, for example, now I'm going to go third to fourth, quite simply, clutch down off gas, into gear, and you're lifting the clutch a lot quicker than you would do in those lower gears. Now, why do we need the set of the gas or a little squeeze of the gas pedal before we lift the clutch back up on the higher gear changes? Well, it's to match the engine rev to the speed of the car. So I'm going to try and explain. When you're doing the first part of the gear change, your clutch is down, and you can see the needle here that the engine's at idle speed. So when that happens, you do the clutch down off gas part, the needle drops to idle. But the next gear that you're going to, if you've changed gear maybe 2,000 revs, we can have a little look here. The next gear that works maybe a little under 1,500 revs. So if you press the clutch and come off the gas like I've just done now, that needle drops. When you choose that lower gear, you need to build the engine speed back up a little before you then lift the clutch back up, and that helps the engine and the gear match, and that will help you do a smooth gear change. So it's not just clutch down off the gas, lift the clutch up, and then go on the gas. It doesn't work like that. This car actually managed that situation really well. Some modern cars actually rev match for you, which in my opinion is a little bit of a cheat, but it does help. But remember, most cars, what you're going to have to do, clutch down off gas, and then on the bit of the gear change that you're lifting your feet back up, or the clutch is coming back up, you need that little bit of a squeeze of the gas first. Alright, let's have a look at some lower gear changes now. Again, this is a skill that you need to use your ears, or listening skill, and quite simply, as you're slowing down approaching a corner, if you're doing a gear change for that reason, you listen to see or to hear when you need the lower gear change, and it's round about idle, or your needle is going to be round about 1. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of different sort of methods depending on the speed that you're going at to do this lower gear change. When I'm doing a lower gear change and I'm using the gear maybe to finish the slow down off, I'm just going to go through this now. There's no one around, so we can slow down. I'll gently slow, I'll listen for when to declutch, about there, press the clutch, pick my lower gear, find the bite, and then come off both pedals. I don't have to always set the gas to then lift that clutch pedal back up on the lower gear change. But that does depend on the speed that you're at. If you're above idle speed in the gear that you're choosing, you do like I've just shown you. If you're below idle speed, you're effectively getting the car going and moving again. So I'm going to do a lower gear change here. I'm going to put it into second, and then because I'm getting it going, I've got to use gas and hold the bite for a while because it's uphill as well before I can then lift. So it depends on the speed that you're at and what you're doing with that lower gear change depending on what you do with your feet. I hope that makes sense. So, I'm just going to do a couple of lower gear changes. Slow down a little bit for the 30 limit, listen to my engine, clutch down third, find the bite, off everything. And then the car will settle down in that gear. We're going to do exactly the same with the 20 limit, a little touch further up. Gently slowing, listening to my engine. There, clutch, second, find the bite, off both. I hope that's helped everyone. I know some parts of it were quite technical. I hope I haven't confused anyone. But if you've got any questions, write them down in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. Above all anything else though, relax. I've said it in previous videos that your hands and your eyes and your feet are all linked. If you're relaxed with your hands, your feet are going to work much quicker. Get practicing and I'll see you soon.